Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. With the holidays coming up, we all need our wish lists in check. We need them like to the best that they can be so that people really know what we like, what we want. And honestly, I have been collectively collecting this wish list for a long time, and I think even now I feel like my wish list doesn't completely represent what I'm really into this year, I guess. I feel like there's so much more that I could have put on this, and there's some that I didn't even list because it's just such a generalized genera. Like on some of these, I'm literally just placing a genera and gonna list a whole bunch of genera that, or a whole bunch of plants within that genera that I'm really enjoying, that I find myself sort of pulling towards. And yeah, I just really want to get into it because I feel like this list is full of goodies. I don't want to say that these are in any particular order, but there's definitely some that I want a little bit more than others. Just putting that out there. But the first one on my list is Filodendron Varicosum crossed with Serpens. If you haven't seen this plant yet, it is honestly one of the most beautiful plants I have ever seen. And I'm not gonna say that I'm like the biggest philodendron girl out there, because philodendron definitely aren't my favorite genus. I feel like I don't think I've completely found my favorite genus yet, but I think we're getting there. I've seen Serpens plenty of times, which I'll pop in what Serpens looks like, and I'll pop in what Varicosum looks like. I feel like anything crossed with Varicosum just comes out so beautiful and rich. And yeah, Serpens I have definitely found an appreciation for, but I've heard that some of the leaves on the Serpens will definitely get a little bit of a beating, or it's just like not really easy to grow. And Serpens, I'm not a big fan of the like its actual leaf shape. I do love the stems, the petioles, all of that, but the leaf shape on its own, it's not something that I would personally like reach for, or you know, feel myself pulling towards. It's something that I can appreciate on the plant, but it's not something that makes me want to have it in my collection. And the Varicosum, I feel like I kind of feel that same way as well. Like the Varicosum has some really interesting characteristics and some really interesting aspects about it. It's not something that makes me want to like really grow it and have it in my collection and make the space for it. But these two combined honestly just makes me want to like immediately snatch it. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Majestic when it starts to lose its silver. I think that the way that the I was about to say Varicosum, the way that the Serpens is textured combined with how the Varicosum is kind of this velvety feel, it honestly just makes for such a beautiful plant and such a beautiful texture. It just looks surreal, and honestly it's just such a beautiful plant. And the fact that it keeps those very free petioles is honestly so beautiful. It's honestly just unreal, and I hope that one day I can get this, just because it is something that I would definitely appreciate growing and find fulfillment, or not fulfillment, but find appreciation and happiness in growing it. Now the next one on my wish list is a Calathea, which don't judge me, but I think I've mentioned this plant already before, but I think that this plant, as soon as I saw it, I knew immediately I needed to have it. It is the Calia Ecuadoriana, which I absolutely love. I saw it in person. I didn't even know that like there was Calatheas out there that, I mean, obviously there's like a central dome or like bubble of common plants, and then outside of that there's a little bit, you know, a little bit more uncommon plants, and then outside of, like, it's just kind of like keeps going outward until there's like plants that you don't really know about. This was one of those plants that I did not know about whatsoever, and the second that I saw it, I honestly fell head over heels with this. I think I saw it at one of my nurseries, and there was only like a big gigantic pot of it. There wasn't any like smaller pots. I think it was like a maybe 6 or 8 inch pot, which where the heck am I gonna put that? It was just not a good idea to purchase that. But from the moment that I saw this, I think the way that the leaves feel as well, from what I remember, they kind of feel a little bit thicker than like my Worcestershire, but this one is just so beautiful. The way that the veins are kind of blurred out into the leaf margins and into like, oh my god, it is just so beautiful. And the back of this, if I can find a good representation, they are just so bright and red. And I feel like for a lot of plants that I really enjoy, like my Micans, the El Choco, my Hoya Caudata, like there's just so many plants out there that I like truly feel a passion for and feel like invigorated about and like for. There's one common factor with them, and it is that they have retibaxials. Retibaxials is like my weakness, I think. Anything that has a retibaxial, I am like, okay, give it to me, like I'm ready. Another thing that stood out to me when I saw this plant in person was the leaf shape, because usually with calatheas you either see like a really round shape or a really sharp shape, like the Worcestershire that I have, I guess, would be a good example. The way that the leaf just kind of arrows down. But this one, it kind of has like a stump at the end. Like it doesn't sharpen off, or it doesn't like peak. It's not really an arrow shaped. It's a little bit more round and plump. And I really, really, really like that. Like I just want this plant in general. Like the retibaxials, the blurred like veining, and the leaf shape, and the fact that it's a calathea. I know people kind of look away from calatheas, but with my calathea I've honestly experienced nothing but good things, and I really want this plant. Like I really, really do. And if I ever see it again, I think I'm gonna need to snatch it up. And also another thing with this plant, it kind of solves my issue for the Filodendron Luxuriance. The Filodendron Luxuriance I have always loved from the moment that I saw it, and I think it is one that I would consider a wish list plant. It's not on this list currently, but it's a plant that I have always sort of looked for and just had a very, very secretive battle with, I guess. What I've heard from the Luxuriance, or about the Luxuriance, is that it is kind of a struggle to grow. You're only going to be stuck with like one leaf, and it just does not sound like a nice or like easy plant. I do want to try it if I have the chance. I do want to give it a try and grow it in my care and in my conditions and see how it does. That's the thing with plants online and the things you hear about them. I would still say to give the plants that you like a try, even if someone says that they're struggling with it, because although they are having a struggle, like although they are struggling with it, your conditions and care might be a little bit different, and it can easily be easy for you. Right, the Filodendron Luxuriance is still something that I want to try, but just not a plant that I consider like on my wish list, I guess. I don't know. Another plant, or I guess two plants on my wish list, are the Philodendron tripartitum and then the Philodendron holtianum. I don't remember why I put the holtianum on here. I think the Philodendron tripartitum, I actually had a chance to buy it more recently, and I'm not sure if this is still on my wish list. It's still a leaf shape I can definitely appreciate, and I love the way that they just like droop down, and it is just such a beautiful plant, and I would love to grow this. The only thing with this plant is I don't know if I would find enough interest in growing it. It's a leaf shape that's really, really cool. I love it. It looks like it has very, very long petioles. It looks like the internodes are kind of long. Although this is kind of a little bit more difficult to tell because of the fact that it's on a coco coir pole. I feel like coco coir poles and sphagnum moss poles make the plants grow differently. So maybe, but from what I can see on this plant, it doesn't look like it. So I don't know if I'd enjoy growing it, and I don't know if the plant would be enough to sort of keep me engaged in it, I guess. Another reason why I kind of struggled to put this one on my list, because of the fact that it is going to need to grow big in order to get that more mature shape, that look that I'm going for. I'm not sure if this one is going to stay on here or what. It is a plant that I'm interested in, but I think it might be one of those plants that I sort of appreciate rather than own, because it is a really, really cool plant, and I just am not really sure if, I don't know. I don't know with this plant. That's all I gotta say. Now, the holtianum I think is a different story, and I kind of paired these up because they do have a slightly similar shape. Yeah, I don't have the picture anymore. Maybe I'll have it somewhere in my phone, but from what I can remember, the holtianum is kind of a similar shape, but it's more T-shaped, and it kind of has like a really narrow T shape, I guess. And the thing that I can remember that I really, really liked about this one is with the holtianum, it kind of had like how the Spiritus Sancti has it, like as it matures, these sort of edges get a little frilly, and I just loved the way that that looked. But this one also has that sort of same issue where it's just not really, it's a plant that I would have to grow big to really get to where I would enjoy it, I guess. And with big plants, you also have to have the space for them, and especially with philodendrons, you have to have the vertical space, and so it'd just be a lot, I guess, with these two. Okay, another plant on my wish list, which I literally just remembered, is the Alocasia Watsoniana. I'm going to talk about specifically You Don't Even Grow Here's plant because of, I haven't heard anyone else say this, and every Watsoniana that I've seen hasn't been this texture, but from what I understood from Alice is that Watsonianas, a true Watsoniana, is supposed to be velvety, and every Watsoniana that I've seen has been more of like a leathery feel or texture, and so with hers I think I specifically want that more velvety feel. And honestly, I would die at the sight of this plant, just because every time I've seen it, I've only seen it like once in person and it didn't really strike anything, but anytime that I've seen it online, I have truly just like enjoyed every single bit of it, and it is just such a beautiful plant. And I really want this plant, and it is so beautiful, and there's nothing really else to say besides the fact that I want it. It is an alocasia, which I don't really have a lot of alocasias on this wish list. Another alocasia that I would put on here is like a alocasia variegated frydek. I feel like with alocasias, I'm definitely a little bit more particular about what I choose to put in my collection, just because they are a little bit more of a struggle plant, and I don't really know that I want to deal with things like that. And the Watsoniana also has a red emergent leaf, I believe. Yeah, I guess the Alocasia Watsoniana also has a sort of darker abaxial, which, you know me, I freaking love so much. And I think that, going back to what I was saying before, I definitely try and minimize the amount of alocasias that I put on my wish list, just because I know they're kind of like a struggle plant for me. I kind of find it a little bit hard to find alocasias that truly like invigorate me and like make me want to own them, and I think that this is one that has definitely done that for me. Oh my goodness, I love this plant, and I definitely hope to own it one day. Another plant on this list is the Philodendron McDowell, which I did a little bit of research, because honestly, crawlers as a type of plant just confuse me. Like, if you asked me what the heck a gloriosum and a glorious was before like all of this, before I learned about it, I would not know what to tell you. I would literally tell you that they're the same plant. And I have never really done my full extensive like research on what the heck crawlers are. I do know like the basics, I guess. Like, they're plants that literally grow flat to the ground. They don't really climb, or they don't like to climb they don't like to climb trees, which I guess are plants, but they don't really climb trees like glorious or a melanochrysum or like my gigas. Like, they more so stay low to the ground, and their anatomy grows in that way. Anyways, yeah, I was very confused by crawlers for a long time, and I believe this one is a crawler. I have seen, I know someone tried growing this upwards. This is a cross between a Nangaratense with a gloriosum, which are both crawlers, I believe. Again, I already mentioned this. Crawlers confuse me, so don't quote me on that, but from what I know, I believe those are both crawlers. And the Nangaratense does intrigue me, but again, with its more basic foliage and just like leathery leaves, and it just doesn't really bring anything special to the table, I guess. It is a very beautiful plant, but it doesn't spark anything in me that makes me want to own it. Same with the gloriosum. The gloriosum I appreciate, and I have always sort of had appreciation for, but it's just one of those plants that I don't think I'd really try and own it, or have it in my collection. I have thought about it plenty of times, trust me, but it's just not, I don't know, just something about it doesn't really strike it. But both of these together are just absolutely stunning. The puffiness and the pillowiness. And another thing with this one, for a long time I also was looking at the El Guapo, which I believe is a climber. Don't know what it's crossed with. I believe that's actually like it's like its own plant. It's not crossed with anything. But the El Guapo, has a sort of silvery tone. And if you know me, I am not really into silvery plants just because it's not that I think they're ugly or they're weird, because I do have silvery plants that I can sort of, I feel okay with the silver on them, but there is specific plants like the silver sword that it's too much of a cool tone for me. I just don't really, I don't know, I just don't really find those interesting enough to own, I guess. But with this one, I guess this is like a close second to the El Guapo. It has that same pillowiness, and I think what I've seen on it is like the texture of it. It's almost kind of like the Varicosum with the serpens, because you're also combining a velvety plant with a non-velvety plant, or like a more leathery plant, and combining those together. And I feel like the velvetiness and the texture is just going to be so unique on those sort of plants, and I feel like this plant definitely gives me that vibe. And I just love the pillowiness and the white veining in the center, and it's just such a beautiful plant, you guys. Such a beautiful plant, and I hope one day I can own this, just because it's been on my radar for a long time, and I would just love to own this. I would love to own this. Now, these next plants or genus that I'm going to be talking about are kind of just genus in general that I haven't really, I would say that I've found some plants that I want to put on my wish list, but I haven't fully like scoured the internet for everything that I like really want on this wish list. So I think with these genus or genera, they are genera that I could definitely explore more and definitely find more interest in certain plants in that sort of genus than I have listed right now, because again, I just haven't really looked into them that much. But the first genus that I want to talk about is Ripsalis. I have three, or I guess Pseudo-Ripsalis / Ripsalis. They're kind of the same thing to me. But I have the Ripsalis Holeri. The Ripsalis Holeri. And this one, from what I can remember, actually, I'm going to pull it up. With the Ripsalis Holeri, I do have Ripsalis. I only have one. It is the mistletoe cactus, or I believe it's a Capilliformis, something like that. Mistletoe cactus. I've noticed that with the names, they're all kind of just used interchangeably. So I will try to include pictures where I can so that you guys know what I'm talking about. But yeah, Ripsalis Holeri. I really like this one because of how thick those like strands are, those noodles, those whatever it is, and I just love how thick they are. And with the mistletoe cactus, like it'll kind of throw out a leaf or whatever, split off of that leaf, throw more out, and it'll just kind of get fuller and fuller. But with this one, it just kind of throws one little noodle, and then maybe it'll split off, and then maybe you'll have like two noodles come off of that, and then maybe it'll throw out one more noodle, and it's just like very like sparse. I guess it's not like a full plant, and I feel like it really gives you the opportunity for your eyes to like appreciate what the plant is and not just like the fullness of it, I guess. Yeah, this one is definitely one that intrigues me, and I would be so happy if I had this in my collection. Ripsalis as a genus, I just really appreciate. I feel like they really sort of break up the like textures of the plant, especially if you have like a shelf. Like I'll throw in a picture of Unplant Parenthood's shelf in her plant. It's one thing that I really appreciated about it is you have like these vining plants like Philodendron micans, or just like a pothos or something, and then you have the Ripsalis, which is also a pendulous form or like a trailing sort of plant. It just kind of breaks up that texture between like a leaf versus like a strand of like a succulent or something, or just like the way that Ripsalis are. I just really appreciate their shape and their form, and I love it. I wish I could figure out the Ripsalis Capilliformis or the mistletoe cactus that I have, just because I do still have it in water. I have been so terrified of moving that thing out of there. Now, the next one that I have on my list is a Pseudo-Ripsalis, the Pseudo-Ripsalis Ramulosa, which I believe I've seen this. I think it's also called like a red coral cactus or something like that. They had this at my old job, and I feel like for a long time I was kind of debating on whether I should get it or not. I decided not to. I still have not gotten it. I do want to at some point, and now I sort of know where to find it, I guess. And this one, I think that I really just like how dainty it can look. Like, it kind of just looks like you'd see this plant hanging somewhere in like a fairy garden, and you just walk by and it just have these beautiful flowers coming off of it, and it just looks so beautiful, and I love it. I really do. And I think that with this one, with Ripsalis in general, I think besides like the more like strandy ones, like this one I would want as like a less full cup or pot of it, I guess, just because I feel like with this one, the fuller your pot, the less you have to like really appreciate what is there and what is, you know, what the plant is. So full pots don't really intrigue me, but I think that I definitely want to have this in my collection at some point. I really Ripsalis as a whole, I want a lot more in my collection. The next Ripsalis on my list is the Ripsalis pachyptera, which I think that this one I have a specific vision for it. This is another one that I wouldn't want like a full pot of it. I think the only one I'd really want a full pot of is like my Capilliformis and the Holari. With the Pachyptera, I feel like I'd really just want like 2, maybe, I think 3 would be a little, I think 3 strands would be a little bit too much, but I think I'd want like 2 or maybe 1 or 2 strands of it in the pot, and I feel like it would just look so freaking pretty. I think the shape of this is truly what gets me. I don't know what it is about this plant, but it is just so beautiful, and I really hope that I can find it someday. It also grows really interestingly, like especially if it's like really stubby and short, it kind of just looks like a little succulent. But then as it grows in, it really just like vines and goes crazy, and I truly love this plant. And Ripsalis in general, I definitely appreciate a lot more. Okay, the next genus is Hoya. Hoya? Why did I say it like that? The next genus is Hoya. Hoya? Why does it sound weird? Yeah, so Hoyas as a whole is a genus that I don't think I've completely explored yet. I do have two Hoyas? I'm pretty sure it's 2. Yeah, I have 2 Hoyas in my collection. I have the Hoya caudata and the Hoya obovata, which were both on my wish list at some point. And so these ones, I feel like Hoya as a whole, I feel like I haven't really explored a lot. I've seen, you know, the more common ones, but I haven't really seen any that like make me want to own them besides like the caudata. The caudata, since the moment I saw it, it was like love at first sight. I just wanted that plant because of its fuzziness and its cuteness. And I think there's also some more Hoyas that I could add onto this list. They just didn't come to mind. The first one, and I think this is literally like the first Hoya that is on my wish list that I would want the most, is the Hoya Andula. This plant. Ooh, this plant. Ooh, this plant. This is a more dumpstery, especially if you sun stress these, they can look like such a freaking dumpster. But even if you don't sun stress them, they can look really beautiful and just like, you guys, I will never get over this plant. I feel like the texture is really what gets me, and then the like frilly edges, so freaking beautiful. And I really do want this plant the most out of any Hoya on this list. And the fact that it can get gigantic leaves is just really cool, and the flowers and just everything about this plant, oh, I really want it. And hopefully, you know, sometime soon I will get to enjoy this plant. The one thing that I feel like would make me struggle with it a little bit is it is a bigger leafed Hoya. Like my caudata sort of stays small. The obovata has a certain size it sort of gets to, so they're not really like crazy big, but this one is definitely a much bigger, wider span of a plant. Like, it's not something that you could just tuck in a shelf. So that's the only reason it really makes me feel a certain way. The next plant, or the next Hoya that I have on my wish list, is the Bilobata, which I actually have owned before, and then it rotted on me. And then I thought I had a wet stick left, and I recently checked and I don't. So this one, I love the way that this Hoya looks. It looks like such a like characterized plant. Like whenever someone draws a plant, this is what they draw. And it just, the texture, again, texture is a big thing for me. It is honestly such a simple plant, but it is a plant that I do want what? It is a plant that I do want in my collection, you guys. I'm so sorry. Again, just such a beautiful plant. It's on my wish list for this exact reason. Moving on, I'm gonna try and speed this up a little bit just because I don't want this video to be too crazy long. The next plant on my list is the Hoya linearis, which I feel like is similar to the Ripsalis. I feel like it just brings a different sort of texture to your collection, and especially when you're like displaying plants, it can sort of add a different textural view or textural, just a different way of growing compared to other plants, which I also really appreciate. And I feel like, I don't know, I just really want this plant. I think it's always been sort of in the back of my mind, and it's a plant that I like wouldn't even really think about. It'd just be like, oh yeah, like I like that plant. And I am on the lookout for one. I did find one here in Washington, but it is a store, I believe it's in like Olympia or something. I honestly don't remember, but I've only seen like very small pots of this being sold, so I definitely have to like purchase it small and then, you know, grow it to really be what I want it to be, which I don't mind doing. It's just a plant that I am definitely sort of on the hunt for and on the lookout. Most of these, I am gonna say right now, I am not looking like intentionally for. If they fall into my lap, if I see them at a store, maybe I'll purchase them, maybe I won't. It really just depends on the price point and the timing and all of that. But these are plants that I'm definitely sort of appreciating a lot and really want in my collection. The next genus is Pinguicula, which is kind of a given. I love me some Pinguicula. I only have one in my collection, but I would definitely appreciate some more. I didn't even name, you know, Pinguiculas specifically. I think the only one that I named was the Jamavensis. And now I remember. Okay, so I put this one on my list because I love Pinguiculas that have like a little curled edge. Like it's just kind of like flat and then it just like curls inward. And with this one, it is just so cute and adorable, and I would love to have this one in my collection. There's some Pinguiculas that I want specifically for the flowers. Like there's one, I think it's called like a snow angel. There's like some really beautiful pink flowers that sort of come out. If I find those, I'll try and pop them in and if I find the name, of course, I'll try and pop those in, because Pinguicula as a whole is just something that I want to explore a little bit more. And I think that any Pinguicula that I see, I think besides the Cyclosecta, which the Cyclosecta is another one of those plants that's kind of like on the cooler toned side, so it's hard for me to like want that plant. It's something I can appreciate, no doubt, but it's just not something that I want in my collection. But any Pinguicula that I see, I'm definitely like, oh, I really want it, you know? Now the last one. I'm just gonna say the genus and start naming plants that I've been looking at, because I'm sure you guys are kind of gonna catch on to what this genus is and why. I think that this genus has so much potential, and just like, you know what, I'll say it, it's Anthurium. And the reason that I didn't really put specifically like, oh, this Anthurium and this Anthurium and this Anthurium, which I did, but there's definitely so much more that I could explore within this genus, because of the fact that you can cross things so easily at home. Like if you have literally just in your natural conditions, like my wavy no ID, which you guys cannot see up here, is flowering. I could easily pollinate that, and it is a genus that has a lot of room to explore, to learn, and a lot of crosses that you can make. It is just such an interesting genus to me. And honestly, I think that out of all of these genus that I have in my collection, maybe besides carnivorous plants, I think that it is a genus that I could say is my, like I am an Anthurium girl. I believe. From what I can tell, from how I've grown my wavy no ID, I think that Anthurium are like my love in this hobby. And I'm gonna have so much fun growing them and experiencing their growth and messing around with pollination, because that is so freaking cool to me. Yeah, so I'm just gonna start naming plants, and it could be for me, when I name a plant, it doesn't have to be the pure plant, because even if it's a cross, you're still gonna get some of those characteristics, and maybe even characteristics of another really, really cool plant. So this does not mean like just this plant. If it's a cross, I would love that too. But yeah, again, just to give you guys an idea, this is a genus that I am like really indulged in and like trying to learn more about. And I feel like there's so many more things in this genus that I don't really know yet, and it's why I didn't really give specific plants, although I am. But yeah, so the first one that I listed was the RA5. By the way, these are in no order whatsoever. This, again, this genus is just like a never-ending black hole of like anthuriums. Although black holes are like negative, so this would be like a white hole, like a positive shift on that, I guess. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyways, yeah, the RA5, I wrote a Lux hybrid, which I may be getting soon. Lux hybrids are beautiful. A dark phoenix, dark phoenix are freaking gorgeous. I also wrote a BVEP crossed with a Carla. Honestly, a BVEP on its own or a Carla on its own I would love, but out of the BVEP crossed with Carla that I've seen, I really, really, really want this plant. It is just so beautiful. A King of Spades, which for a long time I didn't really enjoy the King of Spades, but then I started seeing a lot of people showing the like more emergent leaves, and like when it's not like completely hardened off, and I think that the roundness and the veining, oh my god, I have fallen in love with this plant for sure. A Carla, which a Carla is a Carla Blackier. Oh my god, this plant is another one that just like steals my heart away. If I had to make a list, I think that this one would be more towards the top. Anthuriums can get very, very, very expensive, especially if they are like pure, like if it's like a pure Carla, if it's like a pure King of Spades, they can get so, so expensive. So I am not, again, anything on this list I'm not expecting to like get anytime soon. It's just if it falls into my lap and if it's the right time and, you know, money and all of that. But yeah, the Carla, I wrote down specifically one, which was the A2. I'll try and pop in a picture. Hopefully I saved that picture. Carlas just have such a beautiful like beige veining, and then the way that the veining looks against that like leaf color, and especially when they're completely hardened off, oh my goodness, it is just such a delicious plant. And oh my god, I really, 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 really want a Carla, but I'm not expecting one anytime soon because of the fact that it is so expensive. I recently saw a Luxuriance cross with Carla, which don't even, okay. Yeah, it's a beautiful plant. You get the point. Another plant that I wrote on here, which I feel like is the one plant that I feel like I would put like specifically on this list, is the Anthurium Silver Special, specifically from Tropicals. Charmaine and Charmaine and Alice, although that is their nickname, but Charmaine and Alice really made me want this plant so freaking badly. And I honestly, Anthuriums as a whole, they have both like really made me just like dive into this hole with them. But yeah, the Silver Special, I do have a crystallinum, but the Silver Special has just these specific characteristics about it, like the gigantic, oh my god, I'm gonna get emotional, but the way that the veining is just so like blotchy, and just like it looks like if you took a very, very crystally silvery plant and then just stamped out the center of it, because of the way that these sort of veins like leave off on the leaf margins. It's not like it just like comes down to a close. It literally just like keeps going straight down as if it's never ending, you know? And yeah, it is just a beautiful plant. I may be importing this in May. Not sure. It's definitely something I've been thinking about, but we'll see when the time comes. And another one I put down is the Hoffmanii. Hoffmanii I love. I think that the one thing that I have noticed with Anthuriums is I love the round, just like beautiful, like big bubbly plants. They are just so beautiful. It's one thing that I really, really appreciate about the King of Spades. It's just so puffy and chubby and just so cute. Oh my god. Just another plant that I wrote down, which I think that is another one that, similar to the Carla, I really, really, really want. It is the red crystal crossed with a luxurians. This is another one that I could specifically name because I haven't seen another plant besides the Carla, I think, that is as dark as the red crystal crossed with luxurians. I don't know what it is. It just makes for such a deep, rich green, and I honestly really truly love that plant and would die if it was ever in my collection. Again, none of these I expect anytime soon. Anthuriums are an investment, okay? And so red crystal crossed with lux, I think the red mixed with the luxuriance, and from what I saw in Unplant Parenthoods, or I don't know if Alice posted it on her channel instead, I don't know which video it was, but where they got like a Woohoo Tropicals box and this plant was in there. The pebbliness that I saw on that plant is also really, really beautiful, and it's not something that you get with like any other luxuriance cross. It's really specific to that one. It is just beautiful, and yeah, I want this plant. Another one that I wrote down is a Kun Lents, which again, that puffy roundness, just so freaking beautiful, and I love this plant. And all of these, I have like a searing spot in my heart where I love these. Another one that I wrote down is a Puddle Florum, which I do have, but I feel like I wouldn't mind another one. I really, really do love me some Puddle Florum. I would not mind having two, especially when I, you know, have my own space. I would love to have one like decorated somewhere and then one growing in like my own space and my office per se. Yeah, and then I also wrote Papy, which I feel like everything sort of has Papy in it. And it is another one that I kind of got a little scratched my itch for. You guys will see pretty soon, hopefully. And lastly, the one that I wrote is a Portier or a Portillier. Don't know how you pronounce it, but I'm gonna pronounce it as Portier. And I put this one last just because I feel like with me, Anthuriums kind of, I really, really like the puffy ones, but I don't think I've found that spot yet for the like flat sinused ones. I love me some like big giant lobes, and I feel like it's what the Kun Lents also brings to the table. Same with like maybe the King of Spades from what I've seen. But the Portier does not have lobes whatsoever. It's just like a triangle. It's like a big Dorito chip. And it's a plant that I think I might want in the future. But right now it's just kind of one that I'm more so appreciating, and then maybe, you know, I'll find that love for it. I will say that I do really like crosses with this one. I saw a cross from Russo Plant Care that was a Warwickwianum with a port with something else. I don't remember what it was, but I know there was 3 plants in there. So just like imagine that in your head. If you know what a queen looks like and if you know what a port looks like, put those two together and it is exactly what you think it is. It is just a very long, sharp Dorito chip. And like, sign me up for that. I would love that. That concludes my wish list. And let me know anything that you guys have on your wish list, because I feel like my wish list is like never ending. There's so many plants on my wish list that this isn't even my complete wish list. If I really had to give it to you, I think we'd be here all day, if I'm being honest, because there's plants that I will see and I'm like, ooh, like I really want that, but it just isn't enough for me to like put it on my actual list. I just kind of like take note of it, keep it on my radar. But these ones are like, for sure, they hit the spot for me. So yeah, I would love to hear what is on your guys' wish list. Let me know if we have anything similar. I know a lot of people are really, really getting into Anthurium. Anthurium are just, really cool genus, really cool plant. Hoyas also as well. All of these are, and just, yeah, I would love to hear your guys' wish list. I think we're all slowly sort of delving into a Anthurium phase in our lives. I know I am, and it just is what it is. I'm rolling with it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I truly, truly hope you enjoyed.